Hello, everybody, and welcome to True Crime Banter, the podcast aimed at bringing you your dose of murder relaxation. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome.
Hello.
And for the YouTube audience,
Hello.
I'm talking all weird to you guys.
Visually,
welcome.
hello.
Yeah, the visual. Hello,
Everyone
and
else,
welcome to the
audio,
new
hello.
The new setup. So actually,
Yeah.
I just thought of this right now
Okay.
because I almost forgot. I was gonna say I gotta apologize for the last video real quick
Oh, okay.
or episode.
Okay.
Because I don't know what happened whenever I was exporting the audio. For some reason, one of the audio tracks was unmuted, and so you're gonna hear like weird room noises. Which I know we've talked about this. Christian and I have talked about this. I'm the only one who notices it,
It's true.
or
It's
who
true.
really truly cares about it.
Yeah.
So I apologize to myself. Listening
Yeah,
back.
and also for all the people that are like really into like that really like micro detail stuff
Yeah,
that like
well.
listen, I'm just here for all the murder and the facts and
True.
I'm not really here like
Crime.
if I happen to hear like some little micro noises, like whatever.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 12, I believe.
Hello.
And
today
I want to start off with a couple comments, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Comments from Instagram. The first one is from LOL_and_clumsy.
I love when we get these, honestly, because then it really like solidifies that people actually know
Are
we
actually
exist.
listening.
Yeah.
Right? And they say, I just caught up on all the episodes. I love you guys, LOL. Which was almost a week ago now, I just realized. And I'm sorry for taking so long to shout you out.
Okay,
But
thank you.
welcome. Yes, thank you. And we
Better
love you.
late than never. Yeah.
We love the Clumsies. That's
Yep.
actually their last name.
Okay. Anyway.
Not really.
Anyway.
And then the second shout out is to Stephanie Alyssa_. She said, downloaded Spotify just to listen to this podcast. I've been binge listening since 6 a.m. and I'm now on
Wow.
episode 6. I LOL'd when you said guess our age when we literally said our age in the previous episode. So things happen. I mean, I think you ended up replying to her and
Yep.
admitted that we say a lot of things that we don't remember we
I
ever
know.
said.
But it proves that we're not scripted. Like, we just kind of say whatever, you know?
Speak for yourself,
Well,
says Riley, as Christian says it's
exactly.
not scripted.
Yeah.
No. Today we're going to be covering a local case. Took place almost 20 years ago, back in 2002, September of 2002. The case of Rachel Burkheimer. And I think a good way to summarize this case before we get into it is when bad things happen to good people.
Yeah.
And what the...
Which unfortunately happens like way too
far
much.
too often.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before we do get into the case, though, you got a
Yes.
bit of banter for us.
I do. It might not be like super entertaining, but I was watching Jimmy Fallon and he actually brought this up and I was like, that's actually like, it's kind of stupid but I love stupid stuff. So.
Well, you are engaged to me, so...
The queen of stupid. But he had mentioned that Jeff Bezos, when he, I guess so I didn't know this, but like he went to space or...
Yeah, wait, are we doing a second Jeffrey Bezos?
We
bit of
didn't
banter
plan
in
this.
a row?
Did not
Okay,
plan
all right.
this.
I'm fully on board. I mean, we are
It just happened.
in the Seattle area, so...
It's true, yes.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Yeah,
Yeah.
he went to space. It was like a
Last
space race
year.
between him and like the Virgin Atlantic guy or something.
Yeah, it seems like
Russell
a weird
Brand. I
thing
don't
to
know who
try
it
to
is.
like race to, you know, like I feel like I want to take my time on something like that to make sure like it
You
didn't go
would
wrong.
think,
But
yeah.
anyway, so Jimmy Fallon had pointed out that this is why I thought this was like recent, because like Jimmy Fallon just brought it up in his monologue, but I guess this happened like it says last year.
Right.
They did this? I had no idea
Yeah.
they even went to space.
You know, in the middle of a pandemic when, like,
yeah, of course,
people are being laid off and struggling. Bezos is just like, here's billions of dollars for me to go to space.
But I guess there's like a picture of him where he's like wearing a cowboy hat and he's like he's like standing with like all the other people that are wearing the spacesuits, right? And he's wearing a cowboy hat.
All right.
And they're all wearing these like blue onesies, these blue
your typical
space onesies.
NASA spacesuit kind of.
And they're kind of posing for a picture, him and 3 other people. Looks like there's an older gentleman and a younger gentleman. They're all standing together and they're like just like waving or something. But Jimmy Fallon's whole thing was that I guess they found out later that in the crotch area of this spacesuit, whatever, that I guess it was really uncomfortable. So he flew his personal tailor out to adjust
it,
his
to get
crotch.
It, like, hemmed?
Yep, before they went up.
Wow. There must have been too much room. Is what happened. And he was like, I need it to. Please don't sue me, Jeffrey Bezos.
And so anyway, Jimmy Fallon pointed out there's rich and then there's personal
Mega
crotch
rich.
tailor rich.
Wow. That is, honestly, if I had billions of dollars, I don't think that would be something that ever crossed my mind. Like, hey.
Well, honestly, I don't think you know you need it until you need it. Sometimes
True.
things just arise. Wink, wink.
Well, then, Jeffrey. How
Jeffrey.
dare ye?
Anyway, that's my bit of Banter.
Okay, well.
Super interesting, I know.
I got to look up something about Jeffrey Bezos.
I think we're only on episode 11 or 12, and I'm getting very desperate for banter.
Well, life is a dirty game, as they say.
Gotta play dirty.
To win it. Okay, well, Jeffrey Bezos, thank you for fueling our bit of banter for both this episode and the last one.
Yep.
I can promise you guys that I don't know if Jeffrey Bezos will be involved in the next one, but
who knows?
I will do my best not to.
Yeah.
But today, we are going to cover the case of Rachel Rose Burkheimer. This case takes place, like I said earlier, back in September of 2002, and this is a case that you and I both know. We've, I guess, heard it, listened to it, watched other documentaries kind of on it, and it's kind of weird because it's a very different case, but it's also local.
Yeah.
And it's something that...
Very local for me. I work in the same city.
The same city, you do. So... Rachel Rose Burkheimer, she was born on January 16th, 1984 in Everett, Washington, the city we're talking about.
Yep.
She was born to her parents, Bill Burkheimer and Denise Weber, and she also grew up with her older sister, Megan Burkheimer. When Rachel was first born, her parents, Bill and Denise, actually thought that she might have been deaf or had some sort of hearing disability because she hadn't begun talking until she was nearly 3 years old. But as one of the websites that I used to research this episode described, once the words started flowing, it was like a dam bursting.
Yeah, and you know what? Actually, as somebody who used to teach preschool, it's not that uncommon for kids to... kids kind of... they learn to do things at their own time.
Right.
Some kids will run at 8 months and some kids will run at a year and a half. It is what it is.
Story goes is I was walking at 6 months.
I know, right? Same.
And then I was rapping at 12.
Okay. And you're still not good. Weird. Anyway, my mom said I was running at 9 months. I'm like, well, let's fact check that.
So Rachel, she was described as a gregarious teenager with a social life that I put down here. I described it as something that even a modern-day socialite would be jealous of. She was standing at how am I trying to say this right now? She was standing at just 4'11".
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Not very tall in stature.
Yeah, I would be a giant compared to her. I've never had that in my life. Everyone is tall to me.
Yeah, so she was a short gal. But she had a massive grin that would light up the darkest of rooms and a personality to match. Friends and family members say that she's the friend that never forgot a birthday, and would send cards in the mail at random to
Aw.
people just to tell them that she loved them.
Yeah.
Which kind of reminds me, when I was writing these notes, it reminds me of you a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, granted, you admit yourself, you don't have a big circle that you try to stay in contact with.
So my job isn't that hard,
But the efforts that you do put in,
true.
They are, they
Yeah.
can be like very long conversations that you have with these people. I'm just
try.
like, I can't even have that long of a conversation with you.
Yeah.
And here we are on a podcast.
Our eyes say it all.
Now, me, on the other hand, I am sadly, if you just get any text back from me at any time,
It's a miracle.
it's like,
Even
cool,
me, you guys. Even
he
me.
is alive. That's about right. So Rachel, she was the star of every sports team she joined, while her dad, Bill, he actually believes that she could have made a career at being a stand-up comedian. Because she's got a sense of humor.
Okay.
So from the sound of it, it's really no wonder why everyone wanted to be Rachel's friend. It seems like she had a positive impact on nearly every person she touched. So much so that her dad, he likes to joke that he was actually her answering machine because of how often the phone was ringing from people just trying to get a hold of her.
Must be hard to be so popular.
It's terrible. And nowadays, luckily we do have cellular phones, so texting is a lot
Right.
easier to deal with.
Yeah.
But back in that day, 20 years ago, you couldn't just be like, hey,
You
what's
can't
up?
use the excuse, though, that, oh, my dad forgot to tell me that you called. Sorry.
True.
It's like all on you now.
You just be like, oh, sorry, my phone was
Sorry.
on silent
Yeah.
or something.
Sorry,
I don't know.
guys.
Or I was working, I swear. So this all changed in August of 2001, though. Rachel's best friend, Corey Haynes, described as Rachel's brotherly soulmate, he was killed, unfortunately, in a rollover car accident. Corey, he was one of 6 other friends that Rachel had lost due to death within like a 1-year span, which is
No,
ridiculous.
That's like, yeah.
I mean,
can't.
We've talked about this. I could
Yeah.
not imagine, you lose 2 people within a 1-year span. You're like, man, this is
Right.
just not my year.
Yeah.
Or 1 person or 2 pets or a single
Yeah,
pet and
seriously,
somebody.
right, yeah.
To lose multiple friends and, when you're, when you are popular, or I guess, a person that people like, you run that risk, I guess, of being in touch with more people to where you do have a higher chance of losing someone more
Right.
often.
It's kind of that weird probability goes up.
Yeah.
What each person like the bigger amount of people
Yeah,
the
more you know,
probability
the more
of
likely
something
you're gonna lose
happening to them,
somebody.
whether it's death or not death. I mean, just the
Anything.
probability of something happening to someone goes up.
Yeah, I mean, a car accident or
And that age is
them
already
losing
like
somebody,
really hard to process stuff
Yeah,
at
so
that
she
young
was
age.
like 16 or
Yeah.
17. I mean,
And it seems like by the time that she was even kind of maybe like had even learned to like smile again, like
Something else
somebody
is
passed
happening.
away again.
Yeah.
And then she would grieve for maybe a month or 2, and then someone else would pass away. Like that just, I can't even imagine processing that as like a full grown adult,
right.
let alone
I mean,
her age.
I relate it to my own life, and it's like, you know what? I'm really good at quickly, quote unquote, processing death and then moving on.
Yeah.
But then I have moments where it's just like, I start thinking about it again.
Yeah,
and you're
like too
wow,
much,
I haven't
right.
truly actually chose to feel the way I should feel about this. And,
right.
And then I just cry alone in my car.
Yeah,
But-
in my car.
Truck.
Anyway,
Sorry,
yeah,
it's
in
a
your
truck.
truck.
That's
Yeah,
right.
weirdo.
So Rachel, she was losing these friends like left and right, it felt like. And it wasn't
Yeah.
just to, car accidents. It was
Yeah.
to crazy things like suicide and drowning. And it's just like,
That's nuts.
can you catch a break?
Yeah, right?
Obviously for Rachel, Corey's death was the most devastating.
Yeah, she was so close to him.
Yeah, her sister, Megan, she describes the loss of Corey as, she says, I think it killed her. You could see it in her eyes. Her light was gone.
Yeah.
So after this year of unspeakable loss and pain, Rachel, she slowly fell into a deep depression, as I'm sure it happens to a lot of people, just losing one person, let alone multiple people. She started dabbling in drugs and reportedly using cocaine and methamphetamines, which are still rampant in this area today.
Oh
and
yeah,
all
I mean
over.
countrywide, but
Yeah,
especially
all over. It feels like for
Everett
some
is-
reason this
ugh.
area is like
Yeah,
even more prominent.
yeah.
And she further and further distanced herself from both her family and the bright young woman that she was before. That's when, as I'll sarcastically say, Mr. Brightside shows up.
Oh God, there's always a Mr. Brightside.
This is John Diggy Anderson. So,
Love that name. I always wonder if people give themselves these names or if someone else
you
gave
know
them.
what?
Either way, you don't get points for quality of the name.
Yeah, no,
'cause-
it's not a good option. So John Diggy Anderson, he is a gentleman that Rachel began dating.
Okay.
He's described as the complete opposite of what Rachel's legacy is.
Did you happen to see like how they met by chance?
I didn't.
Okay.
No, I could
guess it doesn't
only
really
imagine when she's not running or rolling around, but she's involved in these different circles of people who have drugs that they can offer her, and her being kind of
Right,
you know,
true. I forgot she's into drugs at this point.
yeah. So
right.
she's in that kind
Yeah,
of
that opens up
friend
all
group,
new
I should
doors for
say.
meeting people. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's described, like I said, as the complete opposite of Rachel. He was a troublemaker, in and out of jail, as part of this gang that he and some friends had started, and they're called the Northwest Mafia.
Oh,
Just
creative.
Incredibly creative. Like, I don't even know how they could even come up with that, you know, so...
They're just like rolling around, sipping their like oat milk lattes, just
like,
chilling.
God, I love the Northwest.
Ugh.
we're like
As someone
Mad
from
Men
here, that
over
makes me
here.
want to barf. Gross. I'm already nauseous.
So detectives involved in this case, they described this gang as nothing more than just a couple of scumbags that I guess would steal on occasion, maybe sell some drugs here and there, but mostly just use drugs.
I feel like we probably could have guessed that.
Yeah, mostly they were drug users that just kind of partied or played video games.
And then they gave themselves a name, and that's pretty much it.
And
Yep.
now we're the Northwest
Sounds
Mafia. Yeah.
great.
And I feel like I kind of knew. I feel like everybody knows these kind of people from like high school, where you're like, you know what? They're not the worst of people. They're not the people that you think are gonna be committing crimes to where they should be like locked up forever.
Right.
But you're like, they're
But they're
probably
also
not
not
gonna
like the
amount to
highest
anything.
quality. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just like, we're just trying to get by, you know. So, interestingly enough, though, John Anderson, being Mr. Tough Guy Diggy, as the people on the streets called him, he was also the jealous type. So
Shocker.
he's said to have sniffed Rachel's hair and
Ew.
clothing to see if she'd been hanging out with other men.
Not
which,
cool, y'all.
Not cool, and I don't think that's a very good test.
No.
You know, like I feel like maybe with women smelling another man, like the perfume of another woman would be more prominent if he was hanging out with someone
yeah, that's
else.
just weird.
But
I don't
mean,
know.
men?
I'm not quite sure the thought process is there. It's probably the same thought process as naming yourself Diggy. So I
Exactly.
don't know.
I think you're onto something.
Awesome. Great.
So, Rachel's sister, Morgan, Megan, I mentioned earlier, she says that this relationship between Rachel and John was not a good one. It might have had some good moments, but there were times that Megan had found or seen bruises on Rachel that John had given her. But there was a moment that Megan describes, and it was 2 a.m. in the morning, and Rachel was sitting on the end of her bed. And they were just kind of talking about life and Rachel's fears and concerns with John and I guess the path that she feels like she's heading down. And Rachel, she decided, or I guess during that conversation was when Rachel had decided that she was going to take her life back and get back to living with the love and the happiness that she used to.
Which I feel like is like already like a great sign. Like it kind of shows what kind of person she is, because to be that age and then be aware that you're not
Self-aware,
on a good
exactly.
path
Yep.
versus some kids are like, well, this is just what I'm doing right now, or this is like a phase, or
Yeah, and it
to
kind
be
of
aware that this is not a good choice and I'm going to make a different choice is like a really good sign and just kind of shows what
yeah,
kind
it
of
almost
person she
makes
was.
sense why she would be such a magnetic person
Yeah.
for some people, because even even in this instance, you
Yeah.
can look at her and be like, wow, even when she wasn't in a great place, she still could find her way out of
Yeah.
it. And yeah, she decided that she wanted to start putting her efforts back into the relationships that she had with her friends and family, basically prior to Corey's death.
Yeah.
So Rachel's dad, Bill, he actually describes one morning that he was walking up to Rachel sitting on the front porch, and she had a radiance again that he hadn't seen in months. And when he got up to her, she looked up to him and she said, "I've met an incredible friend, Dad. Maurice."
Okay.
Now, what I'm about to tell you about Maurice is not going to sound great necessarily, but there is more to the story. So, Maurice, he was also a member of the coveted Northwest Mafia.
Oh my God. One of like, what, 5 people or something?
I think there was like 9 or 10 total
oh my
in
God.
this rough and rowdy gang up here. Around
Would you have to
here,
just like show up to the front door and be like, hey, can I be part of this? Be like,
Okay,
yeah,
I brought
sure.
my North Face. Okay, but where's the Jeep?
Okay.
So the thing, though, is that even though Maurice was part of the Northwest Mafia, the reason that Rachel and him bonded so well and were forming such a good friendship that I guess it's reported as a relationship when you look into news reports,
Yeah.
is the fact that both of them, they were searching for a way out, and they were trying to find a way to break loose from this makeshift gang. And both of them wanted to better their lives and basically, again, move forward from what they'd been doing.
I don't know if I asked you this already, but how old is Maurice?
I know he's younger than 22. I want to say
Okay.
somewhere between 18 and 22 years old.
I guess I'm only thinking that because like if she's still in high school at this point,
Yeah.
right? Then maybe if you're going to school and going to class with people, you see them in the hallway that are all kind of part of this gang, quote unquote gang,
Right.
that it might feel harder to escape it versus if the people that you're running around with that you don't like are separate from you, meaning they are grown-ups or
Okay.
not around you,
Yeah,
it might
yeah.
be easier to not be around them, to get away from them.
I can see what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So we'll talk a little bit more about some of the members here towards the end of this
Okay.
story, but I know the members involved in this story were ranged from ages
Yeah.
16 to 22.
Okay, so who knows who was there and
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about John Diggy Anderson. He heard about this movement that Rachel was trying to better her life and, break free from her ties, basically from him
God forbid.
as like the leader of this Northwest Mafia. And shockingly enough, he was not a happy camper.
Mm-hmm.
He started spreading these weird, I guess, rumors about Rachel that she
Okay.
was sharing gang secrets to her friends and rival gangs.
Okay, first of all, I would love to know what the rival gang is
Yeah.
in the Pacific
I was
Northwest.
gonna say,
Sorry, just Northwest, not even Pacific Northwest.
Right.
Northwest.
Just
I would love
Northwest
to know what the
mafias.
gangs are.
Maybe Northwest gang.
Then on top of that,
Northeast Mafia.
yeah, Northeast Mafia. I'm like really trying to think of what
Those
it would
folks
be.
over in Spokane really
oh
trying
my
to.
God, stop! And then on top of that, like what secrets would be like?
Yeah. Right. Like
What like their new
our
favorite
new
like?
hangout spot. I don't
Yeah.
know. That was the thing that when I was reading this, I was like, "Are there gangs around here?" I mean,
No.
granted, gang violence.
Gangs are
exists.
like a real thing for
Yeah.
sure. I just never hear about it around here. If
Exactly.
maybe in the 90s
Yeah, when it
and
was a
early
little more prominent.
2000s,
Yep.
maybe,
Maybe
but
not more prominent, but
never
more,
heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, he didn't like the fact that she was, trying to break free. So she was trying to just spread some dirt on her name, I suppose. And how we're talking about this, we're like, what is he even talking about?
Right.
Like, what rumors? That's pretty much how everybody else approached those rumors, and almost like it was just John being John. No one really took
Good.
his concerns
Yeah.
seriously.
Good.
So then comes the evening of September 23rd, 2002. Rachel and Maurice, they're both enjoying this blossoming bond between the two of them, and they're hanging out with a few of the other members of the Northwest Mafia, at one of the members' girlfriend's house. So for context, the girlfriend's not home at the time. She's working or going to school, I think.
Okay.
But they're all just, there's like 6 or 7 of them just hanging out all together.
Unsupervised children. Awesome.
Oh, no. Always
ends
troublesome.
well, yeah.
Yeah, so they're having some drinks, enjoying their time together with everybody. And Rachel, she's taking this as an opportunity to show these people that I'm not a snitch.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not spreading these gang secrets. You know, I'm cool with you guys, and I'm you guys only. This is when John Diggy Anderson walks in, and he sees everybody having a good time together, including Rachel, and immediately he snaps. He starts... the way they report this, they said he starts hitting people and slapping them.
Okay.
And I just imagine if it's like a pet, I get, you know, ready to pee on the ground, you're just gonna like
You're
smack
"Hey,
them real
knock it
quick.
off." Yeah.
Yeah, like what the fuck you guys doing around here?
Right.
Or I guess, you know, how I just did it for those of you watching the YouTube video, you just kind of like messing around with friends, slapping
Right.
them. But when it gets too aggressive at some point, even if you're messing around with friends, I'm like, dude, fucking stop.
There's a line.
Yeah.
Right.
And John, he broke that line with however he was approaching these people.
Sounds about right. Coming from Diggy.
Yeah, eventually things escalate and guns get drawn. So
What?
it is as the Northwest Mafia does.
Oh my
you know.
God.
When in doubt, pull
so
it out.
unnecessary.
Pull the gun out. Rachel, she sees this happening and she makes an attempt to escape, but John stops her, unfortunately, and he hits her. I wrote down here until she falls to the floor, but I mean, aggressively enough to where she fell to the floor.
When you're 4 foot something, it probably only
Doesn't
takes
take
one
much,
punch. Yeah.
Yeah, so then he proceeds to kick her as she's down. And I was trying to figure out what occurred at this moment. And I guess what I'm deducing is this was all kind of a setup almost. But eventually he convinces these other members that he was just like getting in a gunfight with to join in and start beating her and kicking her.
Okay.
And yeah, so now you have like 6 or 7 dudes just
brainwashed people that
Yep.
are listening to this dumbass. Cool.
just attacking Rachel.
Yeah.
And so she's now beaten, bruised, and then they tie her up, gag her, and throw her in the garage. Now, this is where she's in the garage, and they go back inside, and they just start partying, and she's just sitting there, hopeless.
I don't understand this. Like, what were you going to do with her? You know what I mean? Like, were you going to wait
Right.
till you guys all passed out, and then you're
There
gonna
was
let
so
her go when you guys get sober?
this
I
is
would
where
love to know the game plan, I
yeah,
guess,
this is
what
where
I'm
things
saying.
get kind of ugly because they do discuss how there was conversations about what they should do to her.
Okay.
Whether it was rape her,
Right.
kill her. There was a couple other things, and all along the lines of, you know, that.
Something.
Yeah,
Yeah, something
and-
terrible.
It is what are you trying to prove here?
Exactly.
You know, that you're big and tough
Yeah.
against a
you've-
4
I
foot
mean, you've
11.
already proved that. You beat the shit out of this,
Yeah.
like, child-sized human.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
Me neither. And you know,
Whatever.
that's why criminals are so weird because
Right.
not so
Well, and
weird, but so
stupid
intriguing and
and-
interesting at the
Yeah.
same time because there's no rhyme or reason to
Yeah.
what they decide to
You
do
could
with
spend
their
all day trying to figure out what was going through their mind, but that's the point,
Yeah.
is that we're not on the same level as them, thank God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Rachel, she is, like I said, tied up and bound in the garage with no hope as to what she's gonna do or how she's
Yeah.
gonna get out of this until the girlfriend, who is also, I guess, the homeowner or
Yeah.
living there, she comes home and she sees Rachel tied up and bound in the garage. And so what does she do? She decides, I'm gonna help this girl. Like,
Finally.
she's dating one of these gang members, you know, but
Yeah.
she's at least got some sort of heart to say,
Yeah.
this is too much. Like,
Right.
whatever you guys are doing, this isn't it. So, she goes, I guess, runs to the garage, sees her, runs back to the kitchen, grabs a knife, and before she can get back to actually cut Rachel free, sadly, John Anderson steps in, stops her. They kind of force her back into the house, and that's where her story ends. They say that she, actually, what I should say is that she says that she was forced back in the garage, the door shuts, and she can hear them continuously basically beating Rachel again.
Fuck. That's gotta fucking suck from her point of view. Like, she's just trying to help, and somehow she made more of an issue for this girl.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And for anybody wondering, I don't believe her name's Trisha, the girlfriend that tried to save Rachel. I don't believe she was ever ended up being charged for anything because she did make an effort, and it wouldn't make sense.
Well, you're up against all these other gang members, quote-unquote gang members, right? But you're still against a bunch of dudes. Like, I can only imagine.
Yeah, it makes sense that
you feeling
seeing
so
what they're doing to her,
yeah, exactly.
You're going to decide against... I mean, you already tried to save her.
At least in the moment, you're like, realistically, I have no chance against this.
Right.
I could fight all I want, but it's going to help neither of us for me to try and go against all these dudes.
So I'm going to save myself.
Yeah, at least for now. And then if there's an opportunity that makes sense later to save us, okay.
Secretly, whatever it is. Yeah, so sadly, she was unable to stop, or I guess save Rachel. She says eventually, after beating Rachel more in the garage, they stuff her into a duffel bag into the back of their Jeep, and they just drive off.
Okay.
And they head off, I want to say, 20 to 30 miles into the mountains around
what is
here.
it about duffel bags are just bad news? Like, I don't know what it is about them. You're just like, this is not going to end well. A duffel bag, whether it's a duffel bag filled with something or in like a person's in it, it's just duffel bags are just bad news.
Obviously, if there's a person in it, it's never good.
Yeah, of course.
So Rachel, at this point, she's alive. I don't even want to say barely alive. I mean, she sadly is sitting here suffering.
Right.
You know, it'd almost be better to know that she's like knocked out or something.
Right.
But no, she's very much so conscious of this. And basically they're heading to the mountains now to find a place to, from what it sounds like, kill her and bury her.
Yeah.
And they're trying to find this clearing.
Oh my God.
Eventually they stop the Jeep when they get to the mountains. And oddly enough, so there was a moment of hope when the girlfriend got home and said, I'm going to cut you loose. There's a second moment of hope because when they find this clearing, or I guess a place to park the Jeep to go search for their clearing, Rachel is left alone with one of the Northwest Mafia members while she's still in the duffel bag in the Jeep, while the other, I think, 3 or 4 members go try to find the burial site, I suppose. And that member that she's left alone with is Maurice. This person
so her friend.
And so you're thinking, all right, like, hey,
there's some hope. Yeah.
Get me out of here. Like, this is already more than enough.
This is our chance.
Well, Maurice, as he stated here, and I'm going to actually read it
also,
verbatim.
Sorry, really quick, not to take away from this, but also I can kind of see how, coming from their point of view, I'm stuck with this girl who's got the shit beat out of her, so she's probably not in the best physical condition.
Right.
If I was to try to get her out of here, how far could we make it against people with guns who would then trace us down?
Yeah, and I guess it does come down to, you know,
or a hillside with nobody up there where it's isolated.
If he has the keys to the Jeep, though, but
that's
who
knows if he does?
That's
right,
not a detail I know of. And
I'm not saying do nothing if you're unsure, but your odds, you know.
I mean, just in general, just surviving,
how far
even if
would
she
you
was
really
in
get?
Perfect, you know, running condition, I guess.
Oh my God, okay.
So I will read you what, not verbatim, but here's what Maurice said when asked, you know, was he going to save her or not.
Yeah,
and sadly, he said no, and that he didn't know that Anderson would go this far. But obviously, to stay true to his gang roots, he did not save Rachel.
I cannot.
So after this
you're a piece of shit.
quick moment of hope for Rachel, John and the other members, they come back. They find the burial site that they want to head to. They bring her out there, kick her around a couple more times, and eventually, I don't know if the bag was always open or if they decided to open the bag and show her. You'll see if you guys Google or YouTube search this or however you want to look it up. A lot of people will describe this case as she was forced to like watch her own grave be dug because she was still conscious at the time where it was being dug. Like I said, I don't know if they actually opened it up and made her watch.
Right.
But they did give her the opportunity to, I guess, sit up and pray before they ended up shooting her multiple times in the back of the head. So one of the things that John Anderson says, or is reported that he said, is that while she's praying, he said, "Don't worry, you'll be up there soon with him." And one of the details that when I was, I guess, researching this case, and I don't know, I was in a weird mood.
Yeah.
Of this specific night of research.
Yeah.
And I get to this detail, and I got like really emotional about it. And it was that they basically, before they killed her, started stripping her of all of her jewelry that she had on her. I mean, I get it. You know, you're already pieces of shit. Why not try to pawn a couple
Right, and it's almost like I wonder
something?
if they even had the like wherewithal to think like this could be identifiable or like
Right, like trophies.
Right,
You know,
or
for
if they
serial
wanted
killers, but
well, also like if they were to ever find the grave, maybe they wouldn't be able to trace it back to her if they didn't have any jewelry, or maybe they're trying to get something for it, or
Okay,
they're just
all right.
pieces of shit. Who knows?
yeah. Well,
Because they don't seem that smart, so it seems weird that they would take it to so that she wouldn't be identified.
I'd go with their pieces of shit.
Yeah, let's just always default to that.
Thank you, Trebek.
Yeah.
So sadly, as they're stripping her of all this jewelry she has, she's begging and pleading that the one thing she wants to keep is this ring that Corey had given her. You know, her best friend that passed away a year prior, pretty much.
Yeah.
Maurice and them basically said no. You know, they didn't.
Of course they did.
They didn't.
Yeah.
They weren't like, okay, yeah, just one more. No.
Yeah, of course not.
Pieces of shit. So.
Yeah.
The reports say that John shot her a few times in the back of the head. The gun jammed, so he unjammed the gun and then finished emptying the clip into her.
I mean, not to get graphic, but was she even still alive? What was the point of that? After you've already been shot in the head a couple times?
Prototypical overkilling, though, you know, where...
I mean, yeah. It makes sense that he was the one that did it.
You're emotionally invested into this and you're trying to show up somebody somehow. Like, that's...
I don't understand.
I don't either. Yeah, so, eventually, a gang member's mom, so Rachel, she told her family that she was just taking a friend to the airport. Obviously, that night, she never came back.
Yeah.
And so, immediately, there's police, you know, not identified, but notified.
Right.
Hey, we've got a missing girl on our hands.
Yeah.
Where's she at? And eventually, a gang member's mom says, I think I heard something from my son about something going on at this party. So they take this information.
Also, really quick side note, it's so great that she said that, because how many times have we heard moms, especially moms, covering up for their kids?
Yeah,
it helps nobody.
We kind of brought it up before in a couple podcasts or episodes ago. If you haven't heard, go ahead and feel free to, you know, go back and listen. But we talk about how all it takes is somebody standing up for what's right and being like, I'm gonna report.
Honestly, even if it's anonymous, like anonymous tips have been around for fucking ever. Yeah, like you don't even have to like risk your life. You can just like.
But there's still the pride involved, though. You know, this is my child. I don't want to have to report him. And we hear that about child abuse, I think is what we were talking about a few episodes ago, where it was the Oakley Carlson case. Where
I'm sorry. I thought you meant just tips in general. Like, you don't have to feel bad about it because, like, anonymous tips are, like, a thing.
But some people are too prideful to be like, my child could never do something like that.
Really,
and they're just not going to talk about it.
I don't think it's a pride thing. I just think it's like it's that animalistic, paternal, maternal this is my kid, I'm going to protect them. But there's no, when you are a parent, I think that fine line between I'm protecting them against something in general versus something they did to themselves is like really fine. And sometimes it's hard to see that line.
And you hear stories about parents, reporting, and you even get,
but you hear
fake.
too many about not. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Too
but
many.
I was gonna say you hear stories where it works out and the kid realizes that the path that they were heading down is not good. And,
also,
there's
so
a whole show
these
based
parents
on it.
can be fucking charged too with like an accomplice and
if they
accessory to
find out.
murder. Yeah.
So the police, they end up taking this information from this mom, and it ends up leading them to, I don't exactly know how, but they end up getting the license plate to the Jeep that was used to transport Rachel, and that they took up to the mountains.
Yeah, that's a good first lead.
Yeah, so what they do, they find out who that Jeep is registered to, part of the Northwest Mafia group, and that gang member, they said investigators applied a little bit of pressure and he just collapsed.
Okay.
Gave up everything. Obviously not your Northeastern
Was
mafia.
this like the next day? Or was this like that same night?
No.
Oh.
I don't think it was. It was. And these are always the details that I don't look into. You always ask these questions, and I'm like, I don't know, and
sometimes
I don't know how that.
Sometimes I like to know how fast these things move. Was it like, you know what I mean?
Well, you would think as soon as they get a lead that something. More
but was
happened
it
to
like
her.
that night that gang member came home and told his mom and she called the cops right there? Like,
Gotcha.
Or did she wait a week? She cracked? I mean, who knows? I mean,
right. Yeah, and I mean, and that is, you do get into the conversation at that point. Well, because the mom, if she waited like months to tell the police, is she then being charged?
Exactly. That's why I like to know.
Yeah, and so I guess in that sense, I would assume that it was fairly quickly because she wasn't in trouble, you know. So, like I said, her son, not her son, but the owner of the Jeep in the gang, he ends up giving up all the information. And these gang members, I told you earlier, they range from 16 to 22 years old. Most of them are not serving life sentences because of their age, so likely juveniles.
Yeah.
But luckily, not a weird turn of events, but the two people most prominent in this situation, so John Diggy Anderson and Maurice Rivas, they both are serving a life sentence without parole.
Okay.
So that's kind of where this ends. Unfortunately, this is where just the most unfortunate things happen all within a 1 year span.
Right.
She decides to turn her life around, and that decision to turn her life around is what actually cost her her own life.
Right. I know, and it came like just before that because she's hanging out with these people with plans of leaving. And then it happens right before she leaves.
It kind of calls back to the last episode with Catherine Knight, and we talked about how it's always right before you're gonna leave. That's the most dangerous time in these relationships.
Right.
And this is just another instance of where exactly that. I mean, it is the act of trying to leave that ends up escalating and bringing things to such a ridiculous outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing somebody obviously led them to her grave area and...
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah, and I'm sure that was probably part of whether it was for the juveniles or people that weren't.
Right, yeah. Is that
show us where it's at.
Yeah.
Yep, and so weirdly enough, she is, her gravesite's not even probably a half-hour drive from where we're sitting right now. And it is just one of those stories.
So young.
So young. You guys are gonna, you'll post pictures on our Instagram at True Crime Banter, but you can see in the pictures like the personality in photos where it's just like, okay, you feel like somebody like that they walk in the room and they just take it over. Yeah. Not with no, intent to be the center of attention. It's just who they are.
Yeah.
They're just so magnetic, and sadly,
isn't that so weird too that she had lost that many friends? She probably never imagined she'd be like one of them.
I know. And now you're like, if you're her friend, you know?
Right.
And friends with all the, you're like, what
Exactly.
the hell is going
What's
on
gonna
around
happen
here?
next?
So,
Yeah.
I would like to know, you know, to bring this into like a lighter note, because it's just unfortunate that something like that happens to good people. But where is this Northwest Mafia at now?
Yeah,
You know?
true.
And, like,
is it still
a
a thing?
or
is it bigger? Is it non-existent?
Yeah, was this a turning point for the gang?
Did it die when some of the members went to jail? Was it just like not a thing anymore because they went to jail? Like,
yeah,
who knows?
but again, this could be a thing that makes them more
True,
attractive
like
to
in the gang
wannabe
world,
thugs.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, there you go. That's a story of Rachel Burkheimer. I was, preparing my, I guess, notes, research for this episode, and there's just so many stories around here. I mean, within Washington alone.
Yeah, we
let
hear
alone
about
the
that.
Northwest.
Oregon, Idaho, Washington.
Yeah.
We do hear about that.
And
we hear other podcasts comment on that too, which I think is so interesting.
Saying, what the fuck
They're
is in
always
the water
like, what
up
is
there?
going on in Washington?
It's a natural spring water.
Specifically the Seattle area. We are 10 minutes from Seattle.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what's going on. So much of it happened before we were even alive. Some of it was happening when we were like just born. I'm not sure what's in the fucking water up here.
There is there's a
sure.
lot of stories. So I'm gonna try to keep I actually just got a suggestion, and if you guys have suggestions for cases,
oh my God.
please send them to us.
Thank you for saying that, because I was gonna say that on the Instagram, but I posted like 10 stories today, so I didn't want to say another thing. But yes, if anybody knows anything, even if you think it's just small and it's just like, oh, this person was killed
Literally
or something, it doesn't have to have a bunch of information, because that's our job. We find all the stuff.
And not only that, because again, you're posting, whether it's missing person cases or
missing children,
unsolved homicides,
right?
like
all kinds
anything
of stuff.
that you guys want brought to light in any sort of fashion. That's kind of what
and
we're
I
doing
say
this
that
for.
in these posts too, is like we are this like little bumfuck podcast. There's really like what do we have, like 1,500 almost followers?
Maybe.
So like nothing.
Just, not much
so
over
like
1,000.
nothing.
But all it takes is one extra person that might have some sort of info or insight into what goes on. Especially
if we are sharing it in this area. I mean, if something is from this area and gets shared in this area, you just literally, you have no idea who this stuff can reach. Weirder shit has happened.
Yeah. You hear stories all the time. So if you do have any cases that, one, you either
Send
want us to
us.
Cover because you just like the story, you want to see how we approach it, because a lot of these cases, all the information is the same. It's just kind of how we choose to tell the story.
And I think I'm pretty on top of the Instagram, so if you message, I'll probably comment like right away.
Yeah,
or
no, you
message
do
you back
comment.
Right away.
You usually always
I'm on
like
top of
every comment out there. So let us know. And again, like I said, there's unsolved stuff or stuff that you don't think is being covered nearly as much or as often as it should be covered. That's kind of, I think, how we want this podcast to be. It's very easy to cover a lot of the big names and the big stories out there. And we do, I do enjoy some of those, but
what I was going to say is I know there's people out there that have like somebody down the road went missing a year ago, or my mom knows somebody who was murdered 10 years ago or something, like things that maybe didn't reach like the whole countrywide news, but like somebody who knows somebody that something happened to. There's always information you can find on it.
Yep.
And, I mean, it's amazing how much information we can find.
Whether we do an episode, we do a story on the Instagram, an individual post on it, or, whatever it is, we'll
put it out there.
Open
for
everything.
Yeah.
So,
well, thank you for that story. You did a great job.
Well, thank you for listening to that story. You did a
You're
great
so
job.
welcome of listening.
And, I think, thank you for, I guess, all of you for listening.
Yeah.
And it seems like people are enjoying this. So
I know,
we're gonna keep at it.
I love it.
We got a new cool little setup on the YouTubes, so check that out.
Yes.
I've spent $15,000 on this setup, ladies and gentlemen. So
you would think it would look better.
How dare you? Anyway, that is episode 12 of the True Crime Banter podcast.
Yeah.
I hope we were able to bring you your dose of murder relaxation. I don't think I've ever said that at the end of an episode.
That's okay. There's always a time to start.
That's right. Yeah, we'll talk to you guys next time.
Yeah.
My name is Riley.
And I'm Christian.
And we'll talk to you then. Take care.